Hello YouTube, this is Stan from StannyGTech, and yes, you heard me right. This is my new channel. And basically what happened with my previous channels, apparently something's wrong with YouTube right now and their policies and everything, so that if somebody marks your comment as spam, your channel gets automatic suspension. And it happened to me twice, and it happened to me by the same guy as I suspected. Um, so basically, I went on his channel and simply, as I always do, I always encourage the community guidelines. I never broke any of the community guidelines. So, if YouTube says that I violated the community guidelines, they're wrong. It's not fair of them. But I always encourage, while always encouraging the community guidelines, I also always commented on people's videos to help them to make their videos better. Like I might like, write a comment, hey, good video, but why don't you film it with the light shining on you rather than the light shining behind you, because that's what's making the video really dark and so forth. Now, so I left a nice comment to this guy as I always leave to other people, and apparently he marked it as spam. That's what suspended both of my channels. Well, I'm working with YouTube on hopefully getting those channels unsuspended. But hold up, just gonna check something real quick here. Okay. Anyways, so what you see in front of your screen is on your screens is one of the type of content I'm gonna be doing. So I'm gonna be doing a bunch of tutorials. I'm gonna be doing maybe a tech review, anything related to tech really. This channel is gonna have maybe some tricks and tips on how to fix certain things, how to, uh, you know, um, build computers, anything, technology related. I will think of other content, but one section of this channel would be dedicated to courses like this one. So this course is designed for people who want to learn how to program or who heard about programming, tried the programming, but never succeeded. So as for me, when I started programming, I actually was never into it, really. I didn't understand the programming to start with. At the beginning, I really struggled through it, and once I passed, I think it was Visual Basic class, um, I said I never gonna, take programming classes again. Up until, I met really good professors at the university I went to, and one of the professors really inspired me. Not only inspired me to code and program and learn programming, but also teach the class. So who knows, maybe I'll become a professor or teacher and teach programming. Now, his name is Chris Pescucci or Christopher Pescucci, so I give him a big shout out. And if Professor Pescucci, if you're watching it, you know, thank you so much for all your efforts and encouragements um, on making me successful in this field, in this area, and I really appreciate it. But anyways, let's jump straight into the course. So, basics of computer programming in C sharp. So C sharp, those of you who know C, languages, they're part of a .NET family, .NET framework languages. So they're all pretty much .NET. So if you want to learn more about .NET, you can read about it. Go on Google, type it in. You can read about, you know, the whole concepts there and here. But here we're talking about the beginning of, everything. So stuff for the beginners. So basics, as I said. So basically, we're gonna talk about in this course. We're gonna talk about, like in this lecture, we're gonna talk about computer components. Uh, I'm gonna do a slight introduction to Visual Studio. I'm gonna introduce it enough so you will be able to write your first project. Now, the project is gonna be a little project. It's gonna show you, demonstrate a couple things that we're gonna talk about in this lecture. So let's jump right in. So, computer components. Most of you are aware of some computer components that are inside your computer, either it's laptop or desktop. You know, you heard of RAM, you heard of CPU, you heard of storage. Now there are also motherboard. I just didn't put them on the list because I want to focus on those three mostly. But there's motherboard, there's video card, sound card, um, you know, the optical drives, solid state drives, hard drives. Well, that's storage. But anyways, so we're gonna focus more on RAM today. So RAM, a couple of people actually, a lot of people confuse it with the storage because I heard customers say, "Well, Stan, I'm looking at this computer and it has 8 GB of RAM. Is it enough for me to store the pictures?" And I go like, "No, 8 GB of memory." They said, "Not RAM, 8 GB of memory. Is it enough to store pictures?" I was like, "Do you mean 8 GB of RAM or 8 GB of hard drive space? Because those are two different things." RAM stores information temporarily. It's like if you go to the store and have a shopping list, right? So you write down the things you have to buy, and then when you go through things and you buy whatever you have to buy off that list, you just throw it away. Um, so that's the same what RAM does. Pretty much, RAM stores the information uh, before the processor processes it, and then once it's done, once the program is done executing, the RAM memory is cleared out. That's why you have to restart your computer sometimes because as you work, the RAM memory accumulates those things like files, information, whatever, and then not files, but info like you know data, and then it's full enough, and the computer freezes up or becoming slow and unstable. So that's why technicians suggest restarting the computer and not putting it to sleep or hibernating, actually restarting, shutting it down and starting again. But so as I said, RAM is random access memory, stores data to later be processed by the CPU or the processor. Well, the processor, you can read about the processor. That's totally different course that teaches you what's inside the processor and how the process is completed. But anyways, let's move further down, and I'm gonna actually show you how the Visual Studio looks like. Now, Visual Studio is a Microsoft product, and it's a software that allows programmers to develop an application. You can develop different types of applications in Visual Studio: web applications, Windows applications, console applications, the whole variety of applications. So now, it's also known as IDE, Development Environment. I forgot what I stands for, but you can Google it, I think. So, anyways, so we're not gonna talk about first project right now. Let me go ahead and start Visual Studio. Okay, so as I start Visual Studio, it starts into this main screen. Now, installing the Visual Studio is nothing hard. I mean, you just follow the instructions on the screen to install it and put in the product key. I mean, well, you do have to buy it though, because you can use a demo version, but it's limited and it's gonna expire and it's not gonna open afterwards. Um, but it's one-time purchase, so you can buy it and use it if you really looking to be a professional programmer and or writes programs. So um, you see a lot of things here that might look familiar to you. You see the menu bar with the menus. You see the another bar with the kind of like copy, create new folder, move to folder, and you see this button that we're gonna use a lot. You see the pane here, the pane here, your pane here, and the main area here. So let us go ahead and start the project actually. And as I'm gonna go through the project, I'm gonna mention some of those terms that you see on the screen. So let me just do this. See, you see variables, data types, declaration, code behind, and forms. So let's go ahead and start our project. Why is it open 2 times? I don't know. Anyways, to start a new project, it's really easy. You go to File, you go to New Project. Now, you will end up seeing this window right here. You will end up seeing this window right here. Now, on the left hand side, if you're writing a Visual C# application, make sure you have a C# selected. Now in this course, we're gonna write Windows Forms applications. So we're gonna write, you see different applications you can write. Cloud, server side, web, iOS, different types of applications and more stuff here. Visual Basic, a lot of stuff. We're gonna focus on Visual C# Windows. So on the right hand side, you select Windows Forms applications, and you do need to have a framework installed, the latest framework installed for all this to work. So if you don't have it installed, head to Windows Update and it will install it for you. Now down here you will see 3 things. You will see name, you will see solution name, and you'll see location. So some of you might say, what's the difference between name and solution name? Well, basically, the name is the name of the current project. Like, you might be working on calculator, or you might be working on some form, as we are gonna work in here, that takes some kind of input from the user and displays it somewhere. Different kind of projects, right? You might be working with banking applications or food ordering system or something like that. So you name it here. Now the solution, though, it's the main folder that incorporates one or more projects. You can store many projects in one solution, or you can store each individual project in its individual solution. So for this one, let's do, the name of the project will be my first app. Now as you see, the solution name becomes the same. It copies itself. You can change it. You don't have to keep it the same. It's not gonna affect on how the program is gonna work. But I'm just gonna leave it the same for the sake of saving time. And so make sure that Windows Forms application is selected. You type the names and click on OK. Oops. Because I already created the application before, as I'm recording this video, let's call it my first program. Boom. So once you click on it, you'll see a bunch of things come up here. So on the left hand side, you're gonna see it says toolbox. So normally when you first start your application, it might look like this. So all you do is just click on toolbox and pin it. Now closer towards the middle of your screen, you're gonna see this gray area. That's the form. It even says the form 1. So that's like a piece of paper, and or a table. Just imagine yourself sitting at the table and putting Lego designing something, right? That's basically what the form is. So form is what you see when you open up the window of some program and you see the main area, and you see that's the form. So form allows you to design the application. That's why it's called design view. Now this is going to be, once we're going to start coding, you're going to see something that's called code behind. We're going to mention those in a little bit. So now you got the form. So before any application, before you jump into coding, right, the good thing to do and a good skill to have is do a pseudocode. So basically what it is like you sit down and saying, alright, so like let's actually do it. I'll do it along with you. So for this, first application or first project, I want to make a program, a simple little program that takes my input, whatever I put in the text box or text field, And then with the hit of the button, it will display the whatever I type in some area. So, alright, so for this one, I would need some tools, and this toolbox is full of different tools. You can see lots of tools, and you'll see this little area here. Now you can type in to search for tools. So for example, I need a text box. I'll just, oops, no, text box. Just drag it over and put it somewhere in the form. Doesn't really matter. I mean, you can change it. You can make it shorter, smaller, wider, whatever. So also, I would need a button. So I would need a button. Please try not to mistype things. Button. Put it right here. Now, the best way to display something in Windows-based applications would be a label. So I actually need two of them. One and two. Somewhere here. Now, a couple things about this. So once you drag all your objects on the screen, they come with the default names. Now, the names of those objects are important, right? Because you're going to refer to them in your code. So you will need to know what you're referring to. Otherwise, if you just leave them default, form 1, form 2, form 3, or text box 1, text box 2, text box 3, or label 1, label 2, label 3, you will, with the bigger applications, you will just get lost. So better to name them so you know, and there's a naming convention I'm going to talk about how to name those. So there's a standard how programmers already have been naming those things. So basically, on the right hand side, when you look, you'll see Solution Explorer, right? That's basically your structure of your solution. So it's like, I don't know, you're opening some kind of folder and it has other folders under it. So it's like a tree structure, right? So, and down below you're gonna see properties. Now, properties is what you use to basically control the names, and you'll assign the fonts. So you will properties for those tools that you see here on the left, the toolbox. Right now it's closed, but so to assign a property to a specific, object, you just click on the object, single click, don't double click, because it will do something else and will mess you up. Just single click on the object, so it will display here, it will appear here. Like I clicked on the text box, so it says the text box one here. So now for the text box one, we want to rename, changing the name property to txt. That's how you abbreviate, normally 3 letters or 2 letters. TXT would be text, BTN would be button, LBL would be a label. You can just Google for the list of, naming conventions for the those tools that you use, right? So we'll call this one TXT. Since I'm talking about, we're gonna use it to take my name and display it on the screen. So I might call it TXT name, right? So then you go to the next one and change the name property of this one to LBL, since this is a label. LBL display. It doesn't really matter. You can call it LBL result or LBL show or something, but you need to know and you need to refer it accordingly in the to it in the code, right? So we'll call this one LBL display. We call the button BTN. Okay. And this label, I mean, it's not going to be functional label. I'm not going to do anything with the label. It's just going to say name or something. I don't know. But still, since we want to get in the habit of naming things, I'm going to do LBL. I'll say name. Doesn't really matter. So now, as I renamed those, I also want to rename the form. Now, there are three different things you have to do to rename this form. You have to change this name, you have to change the name that appears here, and you have to give it a name property, right? So this would be a text property. The name of the form would be a name of the form, so you can refer to it in the code. And the file name would refer you to the form. So, like, you want to know, like, not instead of form 1. See, when you work here, it just makes it easier. Okay, this form is accounting, this form is banking, this form is something, and you'll see the names right here. So to change this one, you simply go into your Solution Explorer, and you'll see a file called form1.cs. So you just click on that file and rename it to my first, or my first app. What? And you'll see pops up here. You rename the file. Would you like also rename the form? It basically says it it helps you to rename those things here too. So you say yes. Now it should rename the name property of this form to, and let's see. Name, yes it did. So sometimes it pops up, sometimes it doesn't. If it doesn't, you just go into property, you click make sure the form is selected, and you go to name property of the form and you change it to whatever you want it to be. How do you gonna refer to it in the code if you have to? Because in a multiple form application, you want to refer to forms. Okay, show form 1, show form 2, but instead of saying form 1 or 2, you say show accounting or something, show banking, you know. But anyways, so and you want to make sure that the text on here, it's not obligatory, but I mean it's not gonna affect or anything. It just makes it look prettier. Well, it makes it look prettier. But you change the text property to say my first step. You can even put your icon if you have it. But see, it changed to my first step. Now, as far as labels, we renamed those, but this label should not have anything in it. So you go for the text of this and just delete it. Make it clean. Alright, so now, if we run, see this button, I said we're going to use this button. This button basically starts the application. So if you run the application, and if we type in my name, or just any name, click the button, and you'll see there is nothing going on. So the form is designed. Yes, we have a button, we have a label, we have a label display, and we type in the name. We're able to type in the text box, but for some reason nothing happens. Now the question is why? And some of you guys who start who are beginners with programming, so to stop the application, you either close that window or just click stop. It'll stop. So yeah, let's rename this text to name. I can type today name. So now this is name. Nice. So sometimes when you start programming, you wonder like, all right, so I have a couple things involved into my goal, like I want the application to do certain things, and I have a bunch of things involved. So I have text box, I have the label that's right here invisible somewhere. It's because I deleted the text of it. I have a button, which text I can change to. I don't want it to say button, so again, text property of that would be okay. So now, and you wonder what should I code behind? Like what should I code behind? Should I code behind here and a label and the button and everything. Well, if you sit down and think about it, like what starts the program? What starts the actually what do you do to this interface that actually completes the action or completes the event, starts the event? So, in order for the program to work, right? uh, you typed in, it's like nothing, right? You type in, you just can type in anything, right? That's doesn't do any action. But what actually starts the action is the button, right? So you think about it. You put in the name and you click the button to start it, right? So you do the event of clicking. Now, that means that when you click the button, something should have happened, right? So the button is where the code goes. So now to move to the code behind, right? All you have to do is double click the area of where you're putting the code. Like if it's a button, then you double click it and it will create, the Visual Studio will create the event handler. This is called the event handler because this is a click event. It even says, uh, it says button, which is button OK dot underscore click. So this is a click event for the button. And now it gives you the space to write in your code. Like when you click the button, what do you want to happen? So because computers are, dumb, let's say, and will not do anything until you tell them what it is and what do you want it to do with it. Um, you know, um, they will not do it. So for this, let's go back to this slide here. Pretty much, as I said, that the memory stores the information, and it's like shopping list, and then you look at it, and then you see, okay, I have to grab this, I have to grab this, I have to grab this. So that written thing in memory causes the processor to do something, right? So now, in order to store something in memory, you would need to create containers, or you would need to create places or placeholders in memory to store your information, to store your request or whatever you wanted, right? For example, when you write the equations in math, you write in x plus 2, let's say x plus 2 equals 5. So x is a placeholder for the number to which you add 2, and it sums up to 5. So what is that number? We all know it's 3, right? So 3 plus 2 equals 5. So in other words, you need to create that variable that's going to store whatever object you want to store, right? So in order to create that, you use that variable. Variable is basically a container or memory place that is going to contain a needed object. That's what it is. Now, next thing we need to know before we start coding is data type. Data type is basically description of what's inside this container, right? Data type also defines the space needed for this, container. So it's like, it's like if you put in apples, 5 apples, you need slightly bigger container than you need if you put in 5 candies, right? So you will know if you put in candies, then the space would be less than when you put apples, right? So, um, just like imagine you come into a an office and you're organizing your stuff and you have this one of these kind of like furniture kind of thing, and you have a lot of containers in there. They don't have anything in there. It's just blank containers, right? And you're putting in one container, you put in something, in the second container, you put in something different, the third container, you put in something different. So to know what's inside the container, you have to write a little label on it, right? You have to say, oh, those are my documents. These are my keys. These are my something else, like I don't know, supplies, whatever, right? Same with the computer memory. You have to give it some data type. And data type what drives the action pretty much. So data types, most common data types, int, string, double, decimal, Like if you work with text, and this is a text, so if you want to type something, and if you want a computer to remember the line of text, that's going to be a string. If you want the computer to work with numbers, it's going to be either an int or double or decimal or float, right? Whatever, you know, whatever has to do with numbers. Could be anything, could be colors, could be, whatever container you want to use, right? Now, code behind we covered, form we covered. Declaration is when we tell the computer basically about the variable. So we tell the computer or the memory, we say, okay, so we want to create this container and we want to store this type of stuff in there. So basically, because unless you say to the computer what you want to do, it will not do it. Like if you say number, well, the computer will not know what the number is. Is it a string, or did you mean the number, or did you mean an integer? Did you mean double, or it will not know. So you have to tell it, right? So now let's jump in to our code. So we created a form. Again, to recall, we want to put in something inside this box. Then we want to click OK, and we want the label to display whatever was in this box. So as I said, double click, it will create the event handler. That's why I said never double click before on like text box or anything, because it will create unneeded event handlers. So well, they're needed but not right now. So we created an event handler for click event of the button OK. Now we think logically. What do we want to happen? We want to put some text here, right? And we want to store it in memory. So we need the variable to store it in memory, of course. And this is going to be a text, so it's going to be the data type of string. Then we want to take that text and we want to take whatever is stored in memory, pull it out, and display it on the label. So here we go. So first of all, as I said, we need to declare it. So we will need text, so string name. I like to write like this. Will be equaling to. Now, if you think logically, will be equaling to what? Text inside the text box, right? So text box name is txt name dot text, and put the semicolon. It's like, okay, this phrase is over. So what's happening here? We put in memory and we created the container, called it name of type string, of course, because it's a text, right? Then we said it's gonna be equaling to text inside the text box, pretty much. So now we grab this whatever is here and put it in here. Now we need to display it in the label. So we type in LBL display and see how the helps you out. Now look what happens. Sometimes as a programmer you might miss this, and I missed it a bunch of times, and then I look at the code, it looks right and it doesn't really work. So what's the problem? Actually, Visual Studio is nice enough to tell you that there is something wrong in here. So if you type, so logically, right, LBL display should be equaling to name, right? And you don't have to declare string name second time because it already knows that it's string. So you put semicolon. But look, it tells you there is a problem somewhere. And if you put your pointer, it says field label my first app LBL display. So failed. Field. Okay. So you know there's something wrong with this. Logically, what's wrong with this is that you want to set a text of the label to this, to whatever is stored in here. So if you want to store the text, if you want to grab the text, so you need to tell it, I want to set the text of the label, text of the label to whatever is stored here. So it's gonna go in memory, grab it, and display it. So now let's try to run it. So we click on run, and let's see. My name is John. Right? We click OK. Boom. See, display John. So this basically is how you write programs, and in the next courses we're gonna learn more advanced stuff and how to use different techniques to enhance your program and how to handle certain stuff like decision handling, and we're gonna talk more about data types and naming conventions and everything. So stay tuned for next video, and thanks guys for watching this video, and this completes this tutorial and completes this course. Please review the material and make sure you can master, and you can even follow along with me to create uh, something like this demo, and see how it works for yourself and experience with adding different names and whatever you want to do. But yeah, so this was it for the first class. Thanks guys for watching, and this is Stan from StannyGTech, and I'm signing out. Thanks for watching, and put the thumbs up and nice comments. Word out.